Glad to be with you this morning. I feel like I need to apologize right out of the gate. I've got my first guest. The Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety is with me, Sean Tindell. We were sitting close enough last night to each other, and the dessert options were pretty good. Lance, they had turtle cheesecake, and that's what happened to be sitting right in front of me. And there was a piece of strawberry cake, of which I am a big fan. And at one point, the commissioner said, yeah, if you want the strawberry cake, you're welcome to it. He got up from his seat at one point. When he came back, that strawberry cake was in front of me, and he looked at me and he said, I didn't know you were really going to take it. and so, as a peace offering, I would like to offer you this AHA cronut that Lance brought for me this morning. You can put it in the microwave and warm it up just a touch, and I think it'll make up for not getting the strawberry cake last night.
It's close. We're going to have to keep trying.
I don't know. You take a bite of that, and you might be questioning. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you, and thank you for the donut. I really do appreciate that.
Cop donut.
Yeah,
there, I'm sure, somewhere. You are in the middle of a tour of the state of Mississippi that has just kind of gotten underway. 82 counties in 82 days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, it's we've had our public safety summit where law enforcement from across the state have come, and we've met, and we've had meetings and seminars. I've gone to the Chiefs Association meetings, Sheriff's Association meetings, Prosecutors Association meetings, but I think it's very important as the public safety commissioner for the entire state to go to each of these counties, meet with the sheriffs, meet with the chiefs, the folks in local law enforcement in their backyards, and hear what's happening there, and take their concerns and bring them back to headquarters at DPS and formulate maybe policies internally, maybe look at legislation that we could request that would help these communities across the state, both big and small. You know, and it's one of the things that's really magical about our state. If you go from one county to the next, big to small, it really is a tapestry of different communities that are interwoven that, in my mind, make what is the greatest state in the nation, Mississippi, because we all have those core principles, I think, across the board, that we love our neighbors, we treat each other, we try to treat each other with respect, and we want safe neighborhoods and good places to raise our kids. And so when I go to Webster County and I meet with that sheriff, and he has a little bit of a different point of view because of the size of that county compared to maybe DeSoto County, where there's over 1,000 law enforcement officers locally working in DeSoto County. But then you see the commonalities that we need to focus on in law enforcement and bring those things back. Again, go to the legislature, look internally at policies we have, and just really put the boots on the ground and hear their concerns. And that's why we're doing it. We feel like it's important. It's fast. But I don't want to spread it out. You know, everywhere we go, I'm sitting there taking notes. I'm listening to what they're telling me so that we can put it all together and look at what we can do for the future of our state.
So you're still early in this tour. I think you told me before we came on 8 counties so far. Is there an early theme? I mean, I know you just talked about the differences in based on size, population, geography, all of those things. But have you heard a theme in these early conversations?
Recruiting and retention is something that's big, directly tied to salaries. Of course, PERS has a new tier coming forward in March. There's a lot of concern in the first responder community that the officers that stick around after 15 years will no longer stick around in this new tier. So that is a concern. The other thing that seems to continually pop up is really when we're looking at from a criminal perspective, drugs and the impact on our community, particularly in juvenile justice systems, keep coming up everywhere. And it doesn't matter if it's a big county or a small county. The impact of drugs in our communities, as well as juvenile crime and what do we do with these juvenile offenders, is something that's happening everywhere.
I hope you'll forgive me. I probably should have led with this. Tragic news out of South Mississippi, down around the coast, a week or so ago, with a highway patrolman who was on a motorcycle that was involved in an accident. Any update that you can pass along there?
Trooper Tavon Moore is a fighter. And a young man that 28 years old was involved in a single motorcycle accident when it went off the road, and he's got a long road ahead of him. He's battling right now. He's trying to get things right. Right now he has lost movement in his lower extremities. So Rehab's going to be important to see if he can get any of that back, and he's got to be in that right mindset. So we're meeting with the family, we're meeting with doctors, and we're trying to, coordinate efforts to make sure he gets everything he needs in terms of his care. And the other thing that we've been working on is trying to help the family. Of course, in this type of incident, he's there, so his wife's there. She has a job. She's losing that money. His mom and dad are there. They have a job and they can't make their money, and then they've got to have a place to stay while they're staying with him in New Orleans. So we're looking at ways that we could try to help them. We do have a foundation, a public safety foundation, that we're going to put out requests. If anybody would like to donate to the family, they can do that, and we can make sure that we can help cover their expenses when they're away from work and staying with him. But he's battling, he's gonna get there. He's a trooper, inside and out, and he's going to be okay. It's just going to take some time.
I think the good news I hear, though, there is what could have been very, very serious turned out not to be life-threatening.
That's right.
Or it may have been for a little while, but at least it sounds like he's making progress.
It was very much life-threatening in the beginning, and that's where he's really already showed the tenacity to fight and come through. And again, that was a Saturday afternoon about 3:30 for me, just one of those calls you hate to get. I was heading home, and the accident occurred about 5 miles from my house. So I turned around and went straight up there, and then straight to Gulfport Memorial to meet him when he got there. And it's just tragic, and it shows you what our first responders do each and every day. They put themselves out on the line trying to make our community safer, and all too often just aren't rewarded enough for what they do. And a big request I'm going to make this year is trying to get highway patrol and state law enforcement salaries up at our agency. And I was meeting with the sheriff in DeSoto County, sheriff in Tunica County, and they're starting all their deputies at or over $60,000.
Oh wow!
They're doing good. They're making that a priority for their law enforcement, and we want to make it a priority for ours. And that's where I think we need to be because of the risks they take, the professionalism in which they're expected to work these days, and those salaries ought to be commensurate with what they have to do and the risk that they take to do that job.
There are some states where it feels like there is a large presence of motorcycle cops. That doesn't seem to be as much the case in Mississippi. What does that load look like?
I think it varies from agency to agency. Most of your larger agencies do have a motorcycle division. A lot of times it's used for ceremonial purposes or parades. And the reality is, from an administrative perspective, they're certainly cheaper to maintain, and they don't cost as much, and they are effective as far as speed, catching up to speeders.
They're also dangerous.
They're also dangerous. And then that's, one of the reasons why a lot of departments don't use them as the primary vehicle for their law enforcement. And, of course, we grew up in the same area watching Chips on Saturday night.
And, it absolutely glorified that with the California Highway Patrol.
It did. But I just don't know that it's that large of any department's primary force and equipment these days. It can be used, but again, I don't know that it's something that we'll ever see being the primary source of their equipment as far as what they use out on the roads.
C Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. If you've got questions for the commissioner, we can try to work those in. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk about what counties are doing with regard to the removal of hemp products in convenience stores. There was an AG's ruling a couple of months ago, and we'll talk about what that looks like in practicality. Is there clarity across the state in all the different jurisdictions for how that's going to be handled? We'll ask Commissioner Tindell about that on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Again, the C Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395. Your team has you covered on the field. C Spire has you covered everywhere else with the best technology for home, work, and on the go. Backed by local 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. That cronut's good, but you got to warm it up. We got a microwave just around the corner. We can do it in the break. We're back with you right after this. Sports Talk Mississippi on the road again this week, Wednesday afternoon. That's tomorrow. Stop number 2 on the Not Fall Camp Tour in Starkville. We'll be at Two Brothers Smoked Meats, and got a peek at the guest lineup. Star-studded. We got a bunch of great guests that are going to be joining us on site in Starkville tomorrow. And our not fall camp tours presented by Pearl River Resort, pearlriverresort.com. Great giveaways. Not good, great giveaways.
I'm not eligible, Commish. I'll be right here. I never get invited to the fun stuff. I think they're embarrassed of me.
Yeah. It's not that, Lance. It's just we think you're taking a nap at that point of the day.
Right, exactly. Maybe.
Yeah.
But if I could get some freebies now, I'm in.
Commissioner Sean Tindell is my guest. I'll give you a couple of messages from the C Spire text line. Here's one. When will county sheriff's deputies be allowed to use radar to control speeding on county roads?
Well, that's obviously something that would be up to the legislature to consider. And, I certainly think, particularly in some of our larger counties where you have more urban areas that have not been incorporated, maybe there's a need for some of that. So, it's one of those things from a public safety standpoint. I don't think it can be argued that it would be helpful, but the decision just has to be made.
I got you. I do know that there are a lot of people that theoretically, if they were driving slightly over the speed limit or sometimes relieved, and like, whew, that was a sheriff's deputy. Thank goodness.
I've never done that.
Yeah, well, I wasn't suggesting that you would. All right, so this hemp products law that is in place where local jurisdictions now have the authority to go into convenience stores where unregulated hemp products were being sold just over the counter, available to anybody that came in. Those are supposed to be removed from the shelves. But it feels to me like there have been a lot of questions like, okay, how is this going to be implemented? When is this going to be implemented? Is it happening the same way county to county? I think it was June 11th when the Attorney General's opinion came down that said, these products, if I remember the wording correctly, are not FDA approved and therefore can't be sold in convenience stores, gas stations, et cetera. I may not be exact on that.
That's pretty much for human consumption.
Okay.
Is the key delineation there. And so, if you go back 5 or 6 years when hemp was legalized on the federal level under the Farm Bill, then there was a lot of confusion as to what extent you could use it, and it showed up in grocery stores and how it was being used, and there was a little provision in the law.
Yes, sir. If I may, because I do think that's important. I think that's gotten glossed over. The reason that this is available is because the most recent Farm Bill, which is now expired but has just kind of been extended, that's what allowed the hemp products to be sold legally.
That's right. And then on the state level, we also passed legislation that said, okay, we're going to allow that, but there was a caveat in the state legislation that said it couldn't be for human consumption. And so then you get into this legal battle, if you will, of the minds of what's controlling the federal law or the state law that is more restrictive. And in the AG's opinion, she followed the state law, which again says that it cannot be for human consumption.
Okay.
And so now many of the local departments, I know Rankin County's done it and others, have reached out to the stores because they know what stores in their county, in their cities, are selling these products, and have told them under this law, you're not to sell these products. If you do, then we're going to have to arrest you. On the statewide level, we've had varying conversations about putting a hard deadline in for across the state to make sure that there's some consistency from county to county on how that is done and making sure that it gets off the shelf. And I think it's a good thing. One of the biggest concerns I have when I walk into these stores and I've seen these products is, what about these kids that are under 21 coming in and getting this? What about teenagers and people that are too young, I think, to start buying that kind of stuff, get a hold of it?
And one of the concerns was the packaging, right? Yeah. I mean, it was made to look like candy or rope Skittles, or I'm not getting my candies right when I describe this, but it was marketed in the same way that normal...
Just like it. I mean, and there's no other reason to market that other than to try to attract it to young people. I mean, there's just simply not. So, all these folks that want to legalize marijuana, hey, you've got your opinions and you can have them. But you can't sit there and tell me we're not trying to market this to kids and then put it in a Skittle wrapping. I mean, it looks like something that a kid's going to be drawn to.
Yeah.
And so to that extent, I have no sympathy for you. That is not something that needs to be getting in the hands of children, young kids, and especially with the vapes too. It becomes very, very, very hard with the vapes for these kids. They start getting that product to know what they're using, and it has an impact on their brain. Study after study after study shows that early use of marijuana, hemp, does have an impact on these young individuals and their future development. So, again, I know there's some medical uses. I know there's reasons that some people need to take it for a variety of reasons. Go see your doctor, go to the dispensary, and get it through the mechanisms that have been set up by the state of Mississippi for those products.
So you said there had been discussion about a universal date when this would all go into effect. It actually is in effect, and counties can move at their own pace for now, right? Would that edict come directly from your office, or does that have to come from the legislature? How would that work?
No, there's a point where we'll put out something, and I would imagine it'd be very soon, where we start making it a directive of NBN to also start enforcing this statewide. So even if a local jurisdiction, let's just say for whatever reason, did not want to deal with it, a county, that the Bureau of Narcotics from a statewide level perspective would start coming in and saying, you got to get this off the shelf.
Yeah, you know, I live in Oxford. I've talked with Chief McCutcheon about it in Oxford, and this was something that they very much were advocating for and believe it's the right thing to do. But he, like many of his colleagues across the state, was concerned about manpower. He said, we could spend a lot of time policing gas stations about what they are selling and what's available. But in terms of like the hierarchy of things that are really, really important from a public safety standpoint, that may not be at the top of the list. How do you manage those two things concurrently?
And it's a challenge. And you do have to prioritize. I mean, I'm definitely more concerned about heroin and fentanyl and crack cocaine and methamphetamine than I am these things on the shelf. But they're all a concern, so we have to give it all attention. And part of that's, again, trying to grow our force. NBN needs more resources. We need additional NBI investigators. And what we're trying to do is do that so that we can also, because all these things are important. Some might be more important than others, but we need to be able to tackle this issue on the statewide level as well.
One of the things that we know about fentanyl is it doesn't take much, right? It doesn't take much bad to create a really, really big problem. And unfortunately, there have been way too many tragic deaths, especially among young people, that have happened far too early with that. We know that there's been a crackdown on border security. We think less of it is coming into the United States, hopefully less of it coming into Mississippi. Have you noticed an appreciable drop yet?
We have an overdose deaths, and I think it's a two-part prong. One, I think some of the supply has been pulled back with the tightening of the border, which is great. The other thing that we set out on a mission to do with NBN and with local departments to make sure we were going into schools, talking to young people about the dangers of taking a pill. You might think this is a prescription-grade pill that you're getting from a friend, when in fact it's been made in a clandestine lab and it's a fake one, but it's been laced with fentanyl. And those are what we're killing a lot of young people, taking something that they thought was okay, that wasn't that powerful, and because it was laced with fentanyl, it killed them.
Is that most concerning for you on college campuses?
It's most concerning. We saw a lot on college campuses and among young people, but it's concerning everywhere. I mean, it really is. You hate to see anybody that's, whether they're a drug addict or just an occasional user, find themselves losing their life. Yeah. Overtaking that substance. And so education is such an important part of that. And so going into these schools, having those conversations, cracking down on these pill presses. I saw there was a big bust in one of our counties just working with NBN just last week where somebody was pressing these pills to make them look like pharmaceutical grade pills and get them off the market.
Just a minute or so left with Commissioner Sean Tindell, Commissioner of Public Safety in Mississippi. We get this question, and this strikes me as one. It's like, good grief, how do you even start? What about illegal gambling in Mississippi? We know the Gaming Commission's got certain rules. They've tried to push back on illegal sports betting, sites that aren't authorized to be operating in Mississippi. Where does that fall on the radar for the Department of Public Safety?
We're really not that involved with that. That would all fall underneath the gaming agents. And so they typically look into those types of operations. Of course, if we came across a big one, we would follow up on it. But so much of it today, when you think about those things, it's not the backroom casino in some gas station. Most people just go to the casino. It's usually online and sports betting and our good old and our good old college bookies that are running that type of backdoor
Does that still
type
exist?
operation. Probably not like it used to, but I'm sure somewhere on a college campus somebody's trying to make a little money on it.
There are maybe a few of those still floating around. Great visiting with you this morning. Always appreciate your time. Hope you enjoyed the donut. Sorry about the strawberry cake.
Great donut, and it's okay.
Thanks to Lance for that. Commissioner Sean Tindell. We'll take a time out. We've got more Mornings with Richard Cross coming up with you. We will wrap up the 7 o'clock hour on the other side of this break. Thanks for being with us.